Hey there, everyone. This is Dara Albright, and I'm so happy to be sitting here now with Nick Morgan, founder of ICAN. We thought it would be a good idea to have a little bit of a discussion to share with you all who are watching a little bit of the history behind ICAN and Capital Ideas and why we're here and why we're showing you all these videos.
Yeah, again, I so appreciate you, developing this idea of capital ideas. I think it's a great concept, and as I know you know, because we're both members of the board of ICAN, we started ICAN with the objective of identifying really regulatory barriers to ordinary investors entering into our fantastic capital markets in this country. And sort of one of the primary makers of those barriers is the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. And so a big focus of ICAN has been to identify cases, subject matters, initiatives where the SEC is really overreaching and is putting up these impediments that, rather than helping investors, are really restricting the number of choices that are available to investors. And so a lot of the focus of ICAN is on trying to tear down those barriers. And so we've got, as I know you know, a parallel video interview series called SEC Roundup that another board member, Tom Zuccaro, and I do, where we focus on various issues that the SEC is up to. But that overlooks an entire, sort of flip side of the coin of all of this, which is there are a lot of innovative people out there who are coming up with fantastic ideas that are sort of like on-ramps to the capital markets for ordinary investors. Despite the regulatory challenges, a lot of people out there are helping to make the capital markets and really the markets in general robust and disruptive and all the things that make our lives sort of more enriched. So I think that's kind of the general idea behind the series and ICAN in general.
I think it's great. And people need to understand why it's so important to really have a capital market system where capital is able to meet the innovation of the day. And especially, I think, even more important that it's the people's capital gets to meet the innovation of the day. Because when it all comes down to it, it's having free markets and it's the freedom to invest in and capitalize from the ingenuity and invention of your fellow citizens. And, we need to have regulators that don't impede that from happening. And that's why I think that it's so important to even talk about some of the ideas. There are ideas that maybe never would have gotten off the ground, look at Apple, which is a fantastic story in itself.
Right. And I know what you're referring to exactly. The Apple IPO back in 1980, there were certain securities regulators in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts who said, hey, this unproven tech company is too risky for the citizens of the state of Massachusetts to invest in. And so they were not, citizens of Massachusetts could not invest in the Apple IPO, which is, kind of a cautionary tale here. And one of the things I think we want to sort of address with ICAN and indirectly the Capital Ideas series is there doesn't need to be some overarching person or group that intentionally impedes investors from getting access to capital. One of the things we've seen is the SEC in its cases almost always wins because people can't afford to litigate against the SEC. And so the SEC, either by default or just through a battle of attrition, wins these litigations over and over again. And so sort of brick by brick, a lot of these cases end up building the regulatory barriers that we're talking about. Right. And there's really no effective group out there to sort of push back and say, wait a minute, this brick is a brick too far. Like this needs to be taken down a level. And so that's what we're trying to do both on the advocacy side and on the litigation side.
Well, I love it, and I think it's really helpful for so many people. Just everything that ICAN is doing, it's going to help small investors, it's going to help innovators, it's going to help innovation, and all of that is going to foster economic prosperity for more and more people. And I think that that's really what we're talking about here, and that's what's so important about it.
Well, let's hope so. I sure appreciate your help on the board. So onward.